Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to be helping you make your very own precon for half the price. Well, just about half the price. According to MTG Goldfish, this deck is just $26, which is, well, a long shot from precon prices these days, which are usually around $50. A very exciting commander with this one. Let's jump into it with Captain Howler. See Scourge, let's talk about the commander, what it does, then talk about the strategy, how we're going to win, and jump into the tactics. It's a 5/4 Shark Pirate for 4 mana and is it with Ward 2. Pay 2 life. Whenever you discard one or more cards, target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. For each card discarded this way, whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, you draw a card. Now, this commander can be built in a couple of different ways, but what I want to do with it is really take advantage of individual triggers, because with that discard trigger, you can stack them. Normally with a wheel effect, let's say, where you discard 7 cards, it'd be +14/+0 to something, obviously, and then also just drawing 1 card on hit. But if we can individually discard cards, then we are going to be really taking advantage of that, because we can stack that second part. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, you draw a card, meaning that instead of it being just 1 card drawn, we could draw 7 in that scenario of drawing and discarding 7 separate cards. So our strategy for this deck, for this commander, is to freely discard cards to take advantage of those hits, because again, by individually discarding those cards, we can really make the most out of those draw triggers, and that can get really crazy with our strategy, and also can help us win too, because we are going to be winning with this deck by hitting hard with evasion and double strike on creatures. Again, when you have creatures with evasion, you can ensure that you can get them through on opponents to ensure that you can get those triggers. And also, obviously, those pump effects really do add up throughout the game, and we can hit really hard. Double strike doubles up that damage, which is huge, and can even turn our commander into very easily a one-shot KO, with some evasion help there, of course. But also, yeah, it doubles up that draw trigger for us too. So being able to, again, stack those draw triggers on a specific creature, get it through. If we say, again, individually discarded 7 cards, targeted that, and we hit with double strike, that'd be 14 cards we're drawing. So we're not just going even on cards, we are going up on cards too. Plus, we've got some other amazing combat tricks to really take advantage of as well. So now let's jump into the tactics, and our first tactic is going to be a free discard outlet like Aquamoeba. Again, our free discard outlets are huge for this deck because we want to individually discard cards so that we can then target and stack that trigger on our creatures. Aquamoeba is a very simple one. 1/3 elemental beast, discard a card, switch its power and type to select turn. We don't really care at the end of the day sometimes on what the benefit is out of discarding those cards. We just care that we can actually discard them. So, yeah, Aquamoeba, that's one that's very simple. Ghostly Pilferer, yet another great one, though. Whenever he comes untapped, you can pay 2 if you do draw a card, so that's nice. Opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card, extra card advantage for us. But again, importantly, that free discard outlet aspect of it, discard a card, it can't be blocked this turn. So, making it unblockable, again, that can be huge to ensure that we can get it through. Obviously, a great way to do that. Seven-Lane Trouter is a very awkward one, a little bit, but it still works great in this deck. Discard a card from your hand. It can't be the target of spells or abilities, and it's unblockable this turn. Basically, Shroud. So with that, unfortunately, we can't actually target it. That's okay, though. What we care about, again, is a free discard outlet, and it can protect itself. Speaking of which, Patchwork Gnomes protect itself great. A 2/1 gnome that says discard a card, regenerate it. Iron Arrow Amoeba is another great one. A 2/4 Flying Elemental Beast, discard a card, switch its power and toughness until end of turn. So yeah, again, just swapping the power and toughness. We don't really care too much about that. What we care is free discard outlet, and it is evasive. Speaking of which, Prognosis Sphinx. A 3/5 Flying Sphinx, discard a card, gains Hexproof until turn, tap it. Whenever it attacks, scry 3. So some extra little card selection there, which is nice. And also, of course, the free discard outlet aspect to it. And some protection there as well. Hopefully we swung with it first before tapping it, though. Next up, though, tactic number 2. We're moving on to other discard outlets. Not necessarily free or repeatable, but Key to the City is a great one for us. Tap, discard a card, make a creature unblockable. Also becomes untapped. You can pay 2 to draw a card. So basically, some delayed rummaging for us. But yeah, unblockability for a creature. That's huge. And of course, that discard, a way to take advantage of it. Scuttle Tide, not free, but very cheap. Pay 1 mana, discard a card, make a 0/3 crab, so we can make an army of crabs. Lovely. On top of that, crabs you control at ++1 as long as there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, which of course will hit quite quickly. But yeah, just paying 1 mana discard to make a creature, not too bad at all. Tectonic Reformation. Each land card in your hand has cycling for a single red mana, or we can cycle this away for 2. By making our lands have cycling, that can be huge, allowing us to cycle through them, discard them, get those triggers as well, and replace them. Mindless Automaton, another 1 mana effect essentially. A 0/0 enters with 2 counters on it, pay 1, discard a card, get a counter on it. By removing 2 counters from it, we draw a card. So this can kind of be like a delayed card draw in a way, where we just stack counters on this and eventually really cash in on them when we need to. Finally, though, in this tactic, Invasion of Kaldheim, when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your hand, then draw that many cards. Until end of your next turn, you may play cards exiled this way. So kind of like a, hey, replace your hand, but also you can still utilize those cards temporarily. But when we flip this over by taking it out, Pyre the World Tree, discard a land card, 2 damage to any target. Whenever discard a land card, exile the top card of your library, and play that card this turn. So once we do flip this, it is a free discard lot for specific cards, and we also get extra value out of it when we do so. So this can be absolutely huge. Next up, tactic number 3, though, we're going to be talking about Double Strike. And again, I already talked about how Double Strike can be a massive thing for us, because by giving creatures Double Strike or having creatures Double Strike, we can really take advantage of those triggers. Again, hitting not only even harder, but also, of course, drawing twice as many cards. Spectacular Showdown, a great one. Sorcerer, 2 mana, put a Double Strike counter on target creature, then goad each creature that had a Double Strike counter put on this way. You can overload it as well. One thing that can be very sneaky with this commander that we can take advantage of is, again, our commander doesn't care what creature is hitting or what creature hits what player. It does not matter. So yeah, we can discard cards on our opponent's turns when they attack, say, another one of our opponents. And if maybe that creature has Double Strike and it's getting through, we're drawing cards based off that hit, and it's hitting incredibly hard. You can also sneaky make opponents, commanders actually one-shot KOs on each other too, which can be quite funny as well. Crimson Carabiner, a 1/2 human scout that says Double Strike, Trample. Yeah, those are 2 great keywords that can really help us out. Deals combination to a player, create a junk token. So by having this creature that, again, has Double Strike, not evasion, but trample, a way to get damage through, this can be a great way to pump it a ton, swing, and hit an opponent, most likely twice, getting through with that trample and the Double Strike, and all of a sudden, yeah, we're going to be drawing a ton of cards off of that, on top of making some junk tokens too. Fire Shrieker, great way to give any creature Double Strike, though, of course, equip for 2. Another new equipment that can help us out is an equipment vehicle. It's got crew 2, it's got Double Strike, and it says equip creature has Double Strike, equip 4. It's a very weird new card, but it's very cool, and it can help us out in a lot of scenarios. Again, either granting Double Strike or just having Double Strike itself. Blood Mist, an enchantment that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature control gains Double Strike until end of turn, giving one of our creatures Double Strike on attack. Oh my goodness. Be like, okay, we go to combat, give that creature Double Strike, it's evasive, we're getting it through, we are hitting twice, and we are getting so much value. Brass Knuckles, when you cast a spell, copy it. Equip creature has Double Strike as long as 2 or more equipment are attached to it, equip 1. So again, take advantage of our equipment, or just double attaching this equipment essentially to a creature to grant Double Strike. And then finally, Chaos Terminator Lord, a 3/3 that says, beginning of combat on your turn, another target creature control gains Double Strike until end of turn. Basically, Blood Mist on a creature, and again, yeah, just granting Double Strike can be massive for us. Next up, tactic number 4. Let's talk about some evasive creatures that go about evasion in different ways. Again, low to the ground evasive creatures can be great for this commander. Get them out early, start swinging when our commander is out with those discard outlets, really take advantage of them. Ingenious Prodigy is a very interesting one, very flexible what we can do with it. 0/1 human wizard that costs X and a blue, Skulk, so it can't be blocked by creatures of greater power, and again, it's got 0, so most likely unblockable on anyone. Enters the battlefield, X counters on it. Beginning of your upkeep, if it has 1 or more counters on it, you may move a counter from it to draw a card. So if we need to actually maybe draw some cards with this, we can just dump a bunch of mana into that X. If we don't need to, just play it for 1, all of a sudden it's down in play as basically an unblockable creature. Swing, get through, then discard those cards, pump it, and draw a bunch of cards when it does hit. Mistcloaked Herald, very simple, very effective. It can't be blocked. It's a 1/1. Slitherblade, the exact same thing. Triton Shorestalker, the exact same thing. You're going to see a pattern here. And then we've got Siren Swordtaper, though. 1/1 flyer for just a single mana, pay a blue, sacrifice it, counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. A great way to protect one of our key pieces. Then there's Setsuko Umezawa Fugitive. This one is huge. A 1/3 human rogue for 2 mana. Creatures control with power or toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. So it is straight up unblockability to all our tiny creatures, including this one. This can have massive implications in what we can get through. Wharf Infiltrator, a 1/1 with Skulk. Again, can't be blocked by anything that's bigger than 1, which is pretty much everything. Deals combat damage to a player. You may draw a card if you do discard a card, so that also helps get a combat damage trigger right there, especially when we grant it double strike. On top of that, though, whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2. If you do, make a 3/2 Eldrazi Horror, so that's not too bad either. Finally, though, Levitation, a great way to give all of our creatures evasion, giving them all flying. That's generally going to be good enough to get through on at least one of our opponents. Especially if we have multiple creatures in play, we can almost guarantee we're getting through to get that lovely, lovely, lovely damage and card advantage. Next up, tactic number 5, combat damage triggers. We can really take advantage of them, and one that actually exemplifies like a flying men type strategy and also combat damage trigger is Merfolk Wind Robber, a 1/1 for just a single mana flying. Deals combination to a player, that player mills a card. Okay, milling them is nice, but it also pays value for itself later. Sacrifice it, draw a card. Activate this ability if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, so we can actually mill players with this. On top of the cards they're just naturally playing, losing, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden later, if we need to sacrifice it to draw, we can. Grenzo Havoc Razor, 2/2, very simple, very effective. Whenever a creature control deals combat to a player, choose 1. Go target creature that player controls, which again can be huge to force attacks. Again, we talked about how we can utilize our opponent's creatures with our commander's ability, actually. And then on top of that, make way for our other creatures by forcing our opponent's attack. They're not going to be able to block either. Or we can exile the top card of that player's library until the turn we can basically cast it. So yeah, if we need some extra card advantage off our opponents, we can get that as well. Shoreline Looter, this one is huge. A 1/1. It can't be blocked. Again, just literally, hey, no, you can't block it. It's coming through. On top of that, though, if we got Threshold, which we will get very quickly, again, 7 cards in our graveyard or more, deals combat to player, draw a card. So some extra card advantage for us. Next up, Bident of Thassa. Huge for us in 2 ways. First of all, gives our creatures, well, extra card advantage when they do hit players, which is lovely. On top of that, pay 1 blue and tap. We force an opponent to attack their creatures, making them swing out and leaving themselves wide open. Coastal Piracy, another great way. Basically the first half of Bident of Thassa. Draw a card when your creatures hit. And again, we've got a lot of evasive creatures. Then we've got this lovely dragon. Flying Haste, 3/3. Whenever 1 or more dragons you control attack an opponent, go target creature that player controls. That can be absolutely a great way to, again, force an attack. And on top of that, whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, if that creature had to attack this combat, so again, goading, we put a counter on it, and then you draw a card. So again, extra card advantage for us there. Research Thief, speaking of which, a 3/3 Moonfolk Wizard, flash flying. Artifact creature control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And of course, that does include this one, which is evasive, and we've got others as well. But now we want to do tactic number 6, discard value, because yeah, on top of the value we're getting for when we are actually hitting our opponents and drawing based off of all those discards, we also can really take advantage of those discards too with something like Bag of Holding. Artifact for 1, whenever you discard a card, exile a card from your graveyard, pay 2 tap, draw a card, discard a card, pay 4 tap, sacrifice it, return all cards, exile with Bag of Holding to their hand. So basically a great way to kind of store up those discarded cards and eventually get all of them back in a massive way. Conspiracy Theorist helps out in a different way. Whenever it attacks, you can pay 1 if you do discard a card to draw a card. That's nice. More importantly, though, whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile one of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. Again, since we are individually discarding cards, we can really take advantage of that, just going 1 card after another, after another, after another, still getting access to them. Containment Construct basically is the exact same thing for this deck. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. So again, we're not actually wasting those cards. We get to use them again. Cunning Survivor is huge for us. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. Again, low the ground, unblockability, and even more power. This can be game ending with the right strategy. Next up, Ivora Insatiable Air. It's got Trample, a 1/1. When it enters and deals combat damage to a player, we get a blood token. So that's nice. Again, it involves more discarding for us. On top of that, though, whenever you discard a card, you get a counter on this. So this is going to become incredibly massive throughout the game. If you have that Trample, a way to get damage through. And again, with Double Strike effects, our opponents are going to be in big trouble. Speaking of which, Drake Haven. Enchant for 3 mana, cycle or discard a card. You can pay 1 if you do make a 2/2 flyer. So yes, again, it is not free on that cycle, or discard, but yeah, it is not expensive at all. Just 1 mana, make a 2/2. Again, evasive creature that can be absolutely huge for us. Make an army, go wide, and again, they're evasive, get through, draw some cards. Career mysteries, though, speaking of card draw and card advantage, 4/4 flyer. Whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1. So basically, having this in play means all of a sudden, while we are discarding those cards, we get to pick and choose off the top of our library what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep, setting up our amazing draws. All-Seeing Arbiter can help us out in a different way, though. 5/4 Flying Avatar, so again, some evasion right there. Enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2, discard 1. Repeatable card advantage there. And again, a discard trigger for our commander. On top of that, though, whenever you discard a card, target creature the opponent controls gets -X, -0 until your next turn, where X is the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard. So that can be absolutely massive, just shutting down our opponent's creatures throughout the game. Next up, though, let's go on to tactic number 7, removal. Yeah, of course, we can also take advantage of some spells to clear the way for our creatures with things like Alchemist Retrieval. For just 1 mana, we can bounce target non-land permanent back to our hand, or for 2 mana, bounce it back to an opponent's hand. Abrade, 2 mana, choose 1, 3 damage target creature, destroy target artifact. Very flexible, very nice. Wild Magic Surge, basically get rid of a permanent on the battlefield, and it gets replaced by the same kind of permanent off the top of the library, an opponent. So, you know what? Hey, opponent, I really don't like your giant creature or thing right there. Let's just replace that and hope we hit something better for us. Then there's Aether Channeler, a 2/1 human wizard, enters, choose 1, make a 1/1 bird with flying. So again, some evasion there if we need it. Bounce a non-land permanent back to its owner's hand. That's nice. Again, some removal for us. Or draw a card. Again, this is very flexible depending on what we need. Imprison the Moon. Enchant a creature, land, or planeswalker. It goes away. It becomes basically a land that can tap for colorless and loses all other types and abilities. This is a great way to make it really hard to ever get that back. So yeah, hey opponent, your commander, let's just shut it down for a bit. Aetherize, if someone's pestering you by attacking you, get rid of all those attacking creatures. Nevinyrral's Disc, good panic button for us. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments when we're actually able to untap and activate it. Aethergale, 5 mana, bounce 6 non-land permanents. What's not to love about that? A great way to clear the way. Mystic Confluence, choose 3. You can counter a spell until they pay 3. Bounce a creature or draw a card. Again, any combination of those or choosing the same mode more than once can be absolutely great for us. And then finally, Commit to Memory. Putting a spell or non-land permanent into our library second from the top is a great way to delay them getting that, or if they shuffle, well, basically forever. And Memory, well, resetting things if we need to. Each player basically shuffles their graveyard in hand into their library, and then draws 7 to reset things. Finally, though, tactic number 8, let's talk about ramp. How are we going to get all that mana that we need to cast all those juicy spells? Well, of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2, tap, sacrifice, get a basic land, into play, tap, then shuffle. Everflowing Chalice costs 2, taps for 1, costs 4, taps for 2, etc., etc. Very flexible for us. Fire Diamond enters the battlefield, taps for a red. Sky Diamond is the exact same thing, but it taps for a blue. Is it thing that can filter our colors? So that's quite nice. Mind Stone can tap for a color, so we can pay 1 tap, sacrifice, draw a card. Prismatic Lens can actually tap for a color, or it can filter our mana as well. Ornithopter Paradise, a great mana dork for us. Just a 0/2 flyer. Tap for 1 mana of any color, but basically, again, since it is a 0/2, that doesn't really matter all that much, except for the fact that, hey, we can pump this with our commander. It is evasive, get it through, it can hit for a ton, and also draw us a bunch of cards as well. Then at 3 mana, we've got Midnight Clock. Basically, build up our counters on it. Once that 12th hour counter hits, we are going to be shuffling our hand and graveyard into our library, drawing 7 to reset things, and we exile this. Sonic Screwdriver, a flexible mana rock, add 1 of any color. We can untap other artifacts we need to, so we can scry 1 if we need to. Most importantly, though, pay 3, tap, make a creature unblockable, and that can be absolutely huge in game ending for us. Finally, though, Worn Power Stone, very effective, very efficient, cost 3, enters tapped, taps for 2. Again, Captain Howler is a ton of fun, a very exciting commander that can win in a multitude of ways, and by really taking advantage of those free discard outlets, you can do some very exciting things, either pumping your evasive, double strikey creatures, or maybe even pumping your opponent's creature, or maybe even pumping your commander to unexpectedly take someone out with commander damage. You know, a lot of exciting things, and get a lot of exciting value, even on a budget with this one. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. As always, comment below with your thoughts on it. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.